Part 32. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 312. Above the immortal realm, the three immortal kings, the Xian King, the Ancient King, the Lotus King, were holding their horns, surrounding the ruthless emperor in the center. The atmosphere was very strange. As for the heroes of the immortal realm who were originally fighting a million miles away, King Xian had prepared for a rainy day. In order to avoid involving them in the next battle, he had already moved them to an endlessly distant place. After all, no one can tell whether this woman who was suddenly promoted to the immortal king giant is an enemy or a friend. It's great to be friends. But if it is an enemy, there will inevitably be another war, which will spread to endless territories, and countless lives will be devastated. But this situation, even with the power of the ancient king, cannot be avoided at all. After all, the fighting power of a giant in the immortal king realm is completely different from that of an immortal king who has just arrived at the immortal king realm. The destructive power of the former is unimaginable. Even if the three ancient kings join forces to defeat a giant in the immortal king realm, they still have to pay a lot of effort. A heavy price to pay. Therefore, the only thing they can do is to transfer the seeds from the fairyland side as much as possible to avoid being affected by this war. As for other ordinary immortal realm creatures, even though King Xian and others wanted to protect them, they were motivated but powerless. The situation reached a deadlock. Ancient King Xian Wanglian could not determine the specific origin of the ruthless emperor, but he did not dare to let him leave. At this moment, the only one who can break this deadlock is Qin Mu. Beyond the endless time and space from the immortal realm, in the lower universe. Ever since the ruthless emperor ascended to the immortal realm, and Queen Qiang, Ye Lingxiu, Yun Ruoxi, Gzi and others also joined hands to break through the gate of the immortal realm and went to the immortal realm, the majestic universe finally calmed down a little. However, the universe at this time is completely different from what it was before Qin Mu arrived. Before Qin Mu came, all the ancient races in the universe were respected, while the human race had a low status and had been living in dire straits. In particular, there are still a group of ancient supreme beings hidden in the universe who are immortal and have been hidden for millions of years. These ancient supreme beings have been in the dust for millions of years, just to become immortals. They have almost wiped out the emotions of living beings, and their hearts are as solid as stone. But they are basically all ancient beings who have become emperors, and they still have the last trace of emotion in their hearts. Therefore, whenever his lifespan is insufficient, he will be born, slaughter hundreds of millions of people with blood, and use the life essence of hundreds of millions of creatures to make up for his own lifespan and slow down the speed of the fragmentation of the immortal platform. Since the human race has never given birth to the most powerful person, facing these ancient supreme beings, they have no way of resisting them and can only helplessly become them as food to make up for their longevity. However, since Qin Mu came to this world, everything has slowly changed. He shaped the major secret realms, enhanced the strength of the human race, and even manifested a group of true human race superpowers to suppress the ancient tribes and kill the ancient supreme beings. Since he left the lower realm, the human race has occupied a dominant position in the universe. Even the ancient races can only succumb to the human race. As for the ancient supreme beings, they were slaughtered to pieces by him. Only a few of them were left, and they could only survive by hiding in the corners of the universe. Since Qin Mu left, there are still 4 people in the universe, Ye Lingxiu, Yun Ruoxi, Gzi, and Queen Qiang. Strictly speaking, the growth of the 4 of them is inseparable from Qin Mu's training. And their achievements are naturally very gratifying. The 4 emperors of the human race are undoubtedly a great deterrent in the universe, intimidating all parties, and even suppressing the ancient races. The 4 of them, Ye Lingxiu, all care about the human race. All 4 of them have faithfully fulfilled their duties as the great emperor of the human race, and have protected the development of the human race and made it more prosperous. With the help of the four great emperors, the human race has passed down many skills and treasures, and its development has entered a blowout period. In just 1,000 years, talented and powerful people have emerged one after another. For the first time, the human race, even if it is not considered the top powerhouse, can still defeat all the ancient races with the power of the clan. It was also at this time that Ye Lingxiu and the others saw that the human race was no longer in harm's way and would no longer be oppressed by the ancient clans, so they felt relieved to open the door to the immortal realm and go to the immortal realm. Before Ye Lingxiu and others left, in order to avoid changes, they deliberately swept the universe. All the ancient supreme beings in the past were cleared away, and no one was left. However, after the four people left, there was still an ancient supreme left in the human world. It has been a dream for thousands of years. What year is it today? On the frontier of the universe, on a cold and dead ancient planet, the earth left, and a vermilion coffin appeared. The lid of the coffin opened automatically. A fat Taoist in Taoist robes sat up from the ancient coffin. At first, the fat Taoist's his eyes were still a little confused, but after a moment, his expression became excited and excited. The immeasurable humming Tianzun, all the Tianzin marks disappeared. Ha 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 ha, the Taoist slept for thousands of years, and finally avoided them all. It seems that these people have already gone to the fairyland. The fat Taoist is wearing a cloud-shaped Taoist robe, with a purple gold glazed crown on his head, a rosy face, and jewels. He is none other than Wuliang Taoist priest Duan Yun's Hung. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 313. Duan Yun's Hung held his waist and raised his head, his fat face full of indescribable excitement. God knows how he got here all these years. Previously, when Duan Yun's Hung went to the secret realm of Emperor Wuxi, he was helped by the treasure hunt set by Qin Mu. Therefore, in the following time, his footprints were all over the major ancient planets in the universe, specializing in the major tombs of the ancient tribes. Once I started, I really got a lot of money. Of course, while making a lot of money from dead people, Duan Yun's Hung also offended all the major ancient tribes, and he was the kind that would not stop until death. I want to ask, how can these ancient clans still remain calm when their ancestors' tombs have been torn apart? Faced with the great pursuit of the ancient clans, Duan Yun's Hung naturally greased his feet and fled. However, because of his existence, he attracted the attention of many ancient tribes, which actually bought time for the development of the human race. However, when Ye Lingxiu, Jitsi and others all became enlightened, Duan Yunshen's happy life was completely over. Gzi and others have proven the truth one after another, and the human race has become the leader of the universe. At this time, the human race, overwhelming all races, has already aspired to dominate the vast universe. At this time, it would undoubtedly seem inappropriate to steal the tombs of the ancient clans. As a result, Duan Yun's Hung was restrained by Gzi and others, asking him to focus all his attention on cultivation and stop thinking about stealing the tombs of various races. Poor Duan Yun's Hung has become addicted to tomb robbing. How can he be willing to stop now? However, Gzi and others are already at the level of the great emperor, so Duan Yun's Hung cannot resist him at all. All his little moves cannot be hidden from the eyes of Gzi and others. Therefore, in desperation, Duan Yun's Hung could only hibernate for the time being and wait until all these ancestors were sent away. He knew that Gzi and others could not stay in the lower world forever. They must open the door to the fairyland and go to the fairyland. I just need to get through this period of time. From now on, this universe will not be a world of poor people. After they left, Pandeo would come to the universe, dig out traces of the ancient world, and appreciate all kinds of treasures. With this dream in mind, Duan Yun's Hung buried himself in the ancient coffin, and while practicing the 9-turn heavenly technique, and also to avoid Jiziun Ruoxi and others. but he didn't expect that this hiding would last for thousands of years. Thousands of years. For these thousands of years, he has been hiding in this dark, damp, and cold coffin, never coming out. How sad. But fortunately, everything has cleared up and the mist has cleared, and those hateful guys have finally left. Now the universe is empty, and their breath can no longer be sensed. It is expected that those 4 people have followed the footsteps of the ruthless emperor and headed for the fairyland. Duan Yunzheng stood beside the coffin, looking at the deep and dark starry sky, feeling a sudden surge of pride in his heart. Ha ha ha, infinite heavenly lord. So what if I have suppressed Pandeo for thousands of years? Why don't you just leave obediently now? Now Pandeo announces that this universe is officially taken over by Pandeo. Duan Yunzheng declared loudly and proudly. He really has such confidence. Thousands of years of hard training have pushed his cultivation to the quasi-supreme realm, and he is only one step away from breaking through to the great emperor realm. And what about the current universe? All the ancient supreme beings have been swept away, and not a single one is left. Among the ancient clans, the strongest ones only have the cultivation level of the great sage. And among the human race, the 4 supreme ones have the cultivation level of the great emperor. His existence has also ascended to the immortal realm. Therefore, now in the lower universe, he can be called the real strongest person. With this kind of cultivation, he can overcome everything. Now, if he comes to any clan, he can observe other people. Who dares to stop him and who can stop him in the ancestral mausoleum? Therefore, now Duan Yunzheng can be truly proud. There are no tigers in the mountains, and monkeys are kings. This is undoubtedly the state of Duan Yunzheng now. However, in Duan Yunzhen's case, I was planning to leave this desolate outer wasteland of the universe, thinking about which ancient planet of life I was planning to go to first, to find ancient tombs to satisfy my hand addiction. Suddenly, a storm surged above the 9 heavens, and a crystal clear and flawless hand like jade appeared from the 9 heavens. It fell from above, as if it had eyes, and grabbed Duan Yunzheng. That palm contained majesty and aura that was difficult to resist. Duan Yunzhen's strength seemed so small and fragile in front of this palm. The palm fell at that moment. Duan Yunzheng felt that his soul and strength were about to be completely frozen. At this moment, only the last thought was spinning in his mind. Damn the infinite heavenly lord, Pandeo has just been born, and he hasn't had time to go to those visiting the ancient tomb. Boom, the huge palm fell, but the control of the power was extremely wonderful. He only held Duan Yunzheng in his hand and then took it back to the 9 heavens. As for that ancient desolate star, not even a trace of dust was splashed on the surface of the star. Poor Duan Yunzheng was just born and disappeared into the universe in an instant. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 314. Damned. Who is taking action against Pandeo? Caught in the palm of that huge hand, Duan Yunzheng found that he had no resistance in front of this palm. He could only roar in grief and anger. The big hand that covered the sky fell from the sky and snatched Duan Yunzheng away. All this only happened in an instant. Then everything returned to calm, as if nothing had happened. The huge palm pinched Duan Yunzheng in the palm like a chicken, and then walked through the boundless void and headed straight towards the fairyland. In Duan Yunzhen's horrified eyes, the big hand directly broke through the fairy gate that blocked the lower world and the fairy realm without even the slightest stagnation. Then, amidst his screams, Duan Yunzheng was thrown fiercely in a certain direction. On the border of the immortal realm, the confrontation between the ruthless emperor and King Xian and others has not yet ended, and the situation is still not optimistic. However, just when the ancient King Xian Wang didn't know what to do, the movement in the distance caught their attention. There seemed to be a black spot on the distant horizon, flying towards their direction from far to near at an extremely fast speed. What? Xian Wang turned his eyes and raised his palm slightly, as if he wanted to slap it out, but at the last moment he stopped his hand, as if he had noticed what the flying thing was. He changed from patting to catching, and grabbed it. I grabbed the thing in my hand and held it over. Humming Infinite God. Duan Yun's Hung, who was beaten to pieces, was about to curse, but he suddenly felt the powerful aura, which made him swallow his next words involuntarily. In front of those incomparably powerful auras, Duan Yun's Hung felt as insignificant as an ant next to Haori. Facing such a strong man, he naturally didn't dare to be a little presumptuous. At this time, Duan Yun's Hung had almost understood that he had been robbed to the immortal realm. But, who is taking action to snatch him over? Where is this? Why are there so many strong men? It really scares me to death. Duan Yun's Hung was in a state of confusion, and King Xian also frowned, wondering where this fat Taoist priest who suddenly flew over came from. However, after a brief investigation and found that the other party did not have the aura of the Dark Realm, King Xian planned to throw it aside to avoid becoming cannon fodder and being affected later. However, just when King Xian was about to let go, Duan Yun's Hung, who was held in his hand, seemed to have seen something, opened his mouth and screamed. Infinite Heavenly Lord! The Ruthless Emperor! The Ruthless Emperor, save me! Save me! I think I even visited your graveyard back then, bah! I even visited your dojo as a guest. Duan Yun's Hung looked around and undoubtedly found the Ruthless Emperor standing above the 9 heavens, and immediately shouted in surprise. He was not a fool. He could analyze the current situation with just one glance. These three, the powerful man with a strong aura surrounded the Ruthless Emperor in the center, and it seemed that he wanted to be his enemy. Duan Yun's Hung knew the existence of the Ruthless Emperor, so he naturally wanted to ask her for help. However, at the same time, he also had mixed feelings in his heart, feelings of shock and doubt. What is shocking is that the strength of the Ruthless Emperor at this moment has reached a level that he can hardly imagine. What is puzzling is that the people who took action to catch him here are the ones who are related to the Ruthless Emperor. The enemy. But why did they want to arrest him? Is it possible that he should be used as a hostage to threaten the Ruthless Emperor? Duan Yun's Hung was confused. Even he felt that this was almost impossible. He was not important to the Ruthless Emperor. He is a character, even if the other party captures him and uses him as a threat, it will be in vain. Do you know her? King Xian, who was about to let go, raised his eyebrows when he heard Duan Yunshen's yelling, and then looked into Duan Yunshen's eyes with deep eyes. When their eyes met, the majestic power of the immortal king instantly suppressed all Duan Yunshen's resistance. In the eyes of King Xian, the scenes that Duan Yun's Hung had experienced in the past began to be played back in turn. The more he watched, the weirder and more shocked King Xian's face became. After a long time, he slowly exhaled, threw Duan Yun's Hung aside, and said to King Gu and King Lian beside him. Everything she said was true, she did come from the lower world. Memory cannot be faked. King Xian just checked Duan Yunshen's memory, and naturally found out the parts related to the Ruthless Emperor. These memories are true and there is no possibility of fakery. From this, Xian the king finally knew the truth of everything. It turned out that this woman named the Ruthless Emperor really came from the lower world. A woman from the lower world achieved the status of the immortal king in less than 10,000 years. Thinking of this, King Xian couldn't help but sigh, there really are such talented people in this world. However, thinking of the majestic figure behind the Ruthless Emperor, all this seemed normal again. In Duan Yunshen's memory, although there were only clues, but King Xian was still able to deduce that this woman named the Ruthless Emperor might have a great connection with the legendary Lord of Heaven. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 315. Since the beginning of Qin Mu's establishment, he has closed all timelines and changed his identity to the oldest person in this world. The history of the immortal realm, including all the heavens and worlds that exist around the immortal realm, has undoubtedly changed. As history changes, so do the memories in the minds of millions of sentient beings. Therefore, after exploring the memories in Duan Yunshen's mind and discovering that the ruthless emperor was probably related to the legendary existence, King Xian's confused mood calmed down a little. It is undoubtedly unimaginable that a prodigy from the lower world could break through several levels in a short period of time and complete a path that other true immortals could not even imagine in their entire lives. However, if this person is related to the Lord of Heaven, then everything can be explained. Who is the Lord of Heaven? An existence worshipped by hundreds of millions of people. No one knows how powerful he is, but there is no doubt that at the beginning of the ancient times, the early days of the creation of the world, when humans were still ignorant, he was already an existence that was unimaginable to all living beings. After passing through, the ancient king went back in time and witnessed the distant history. Qin Mu showed some power and effortlessly destroyed the immortal emperor whose existence could pollute this world with just one drop of blood. This undoubtedly made him understand even more how majestic and heavy power is contained in the four words Lord of God. That is undoubtedly a power that can make the entire heavens and even the entire endless sea of infinite multiverses tremble. It seems that everything is a misunderstanding. King Xian's expression softened and he nodded towards King Gu and King Lian. It's okay to misunderstand, it's okay to misunderstand. The ancient king and the Lotus King also breathed a sigh of relief. Today's immortal realm really can't afford any big turmoil. If the ruthless emperor really belongs to the dark realm, he will undoubtedly bring more changes to the immortal realm. A painful blow. After all, the fighting power of a giant in the immortal king realm is not so easy to be surrendered. It's a joy to congratulate our immortal domain for adding another immortal king. It's a joy to congratulate. Fellow Taoist, why don't you go to Ronzhou Temple with us to worship Ronzhou and protect the people in our immortal realm? Lian Wang suggested easily. The Ronzhou Temple is naturally the temple that the human race built for Qin Mu. At the beginning of the ancient times, he preached to the human race and avoided the fate of the human race being exterminated. In the endless years to come, it has become more and more prosperous. Strengthen. This kind of preaching grace is greater than the sky, so there is nothing wrong with calling him the honorific ancestor. King. Lotus's suggestion was natural, and others didn't think there was anything wrong with it. Throughout the ages, there are always people in the immortal realm. When big things happen, people will go to Ronzhou Temple to pray, without exception. Now that Emperor Henren has become a giant in the immortal king realm, and the immortal realm has gained another powerful arm, such good things naturally lead to going to Ronzhou Temple to pray and worship. Of human ancestors. That's fine. The ruthless emperor did not refuse, but the look in his beautiful eyes was a little complicated. She didn't know that the Lord of Heaven was the human ancestor? Or was it her brother? Being promoted to the giant of the immortal king realm did not make Ruthless the emperor felt the slightest joy. Because she knew that the gap between her and her brother was actually getting farther and farther. Perhaps in his eyes, the giant immortal king was as insignificant as an ant? With this thought in his heart, he fiercely the human emperor's eyes have become firmer. Even if the gap is higher than the sky, so what? Sooner or later, I will catch up with you, I will definitely do it. With this thought in my heart, the ruthless emperor's eyes are looking at the boundless sea of boundaries. There is no doubt that this is the last mysterious place in the entire fairyland. The end of this boundless sea of boundaries is the former immortal emperor who was stained with black blood and fell. The place where he was born. According to the period of history that the ancient king once explored, after the dark immortal emperor was defeated by Huang, at the last moment, the mysterious Hunyuan existence came to seize his body and lost himself. And in the end, Qin Mu took action, destroyed a ray of soul of the Hunyuan being. In order to prevent the real body of Hunyuan from coming for revenge, Huang must have left the fairyland and went to the legendary heaven. However, Yefan and Wuxi, where are the two of them now? This is the only thing that the ruthless emperor is puzzled about. A million years ago, she was seriously injured and fell into a deep sleep. Only Yefan and Wuxi entered the fairyland. But since she entered the fairyland now, but I have never heard any news about these two people. Could it be that there was a break in history millions of years ago? This is obviously impossible. The only explanation is that the place where the two were when they came to the fairyland is absolutely extremely dangerous. This is why the two of them have never appeared in the immortal realm in the past million years. Naturally, no one in the immortal realm has heard of their names. As for how dangerous the place is, being able to trap Yefan and Wuxi, who were already in the world of mortals. The ruthless emperor's eyes couldn't help but turn to the boundless sea of boundaries. She knew that perhaps, in the depths of the sea of boundaries, she could find this answer. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 316. When they were in the lower realm, the ruthless emperor and the beginningless emperor went deep into the ancient road of the netherworld, hoping to put an end to the disaster at the end of the ancient road of the netherworld and restore peace to the world forever. In the end, the war ended. Emperor Wuxi and Emperor Yetian went to the immortal realm, while Emperor Wu chose to stay in the lower world, waiting for someone to return in the world of mortals. Millions of years have passed, and the ruthless emperor has returned to the immortal realm, but the legend of Yefan and Wuxi has never been circulated in the immortal realm. This is undoubtedly unreasonable. Based on the talents of Emperor Yetian and Emperor Wuxi, Emperor Wu believed that even if they entered the immortal realm, they would be the kind of existence that would stir up troubles. A million years have passed. Even if the two of them have already achieved the status of immortal king, the ruthless emperor will not be surprised at all. But now, since the ruthless emperor came to the fairyland, he has never heard any news related to these two people. In the view of the ruthless emperor, there is only one possibility. That is, the place where the two of them came to the immortal realm was very dangerous, and even if millions of years passed, they still could not escape from it. In other words, the two of them had no intention of getting out of it. After all, the opposite of great risks is huge opportunities. I don't know how many of you have ever heard of Wuxi and Yefan. Millions of years ago, they entered the fairyland. The ruthless emperor looked at the three ancient kings, and waved his hand at the same time, and an ancient painting showing the charm of two two-day gods appeared in front of everyone. In the picture, a person has a chaos bell on his head, with a majestic appearance and invincible courage in ancient and modern times. The other person has a cauldron of Mother Qi on his head, and every move of his hands and feet has a supreme divine posture that suppresses the current world and no one can compete with it. Never heard of it? King Xian frowned. Even from the picture, he could feel that these two people should be equally talented as the woman in front of him. If he were in the immortal realm, he had no reason not to know. Who are these two people? King Xian continued to ask. My companion, like me, comes from the lower world and is gifted like no other in history. The ruthless emperor's voice was cold, but the content of his words made Xian Wang and others feel shocked. They have all seen the talent of the ruthless emperor. He created his own system, broke the taboos of the 9 immortal kings, and became the immortal king. And became a giant of immortal king, which shocked the ancient and modern times. These two people are as talented as the ruthless emperor? Doesn't that mean that they may also become immortal kings? If this is the case, I have been in charge of the immortal realm for millions of years and should not know anything about it. King Xian frowned. He searched the sea of consciousness, but there was no impression related to these two people. After hearing King Xian's answer, the ruthless emperor did not show any emotion on his face. After all, this was basically the same as her guess. Immediately, she looked towards the depths of the boundless sea. Faintly, The ruthless emperor had an intuition. I was afraid that he would have to find the answer to the whereabouts of the two people and the traces of the Lord of Heaven from here. Seeing ruthless people where the emperor looked, the ancient king's expression changed slightly, as if he had guessed what the ruthless emperor was thinking. Are you saying that your two companions might be in this world sea at the moment? The ancient king couldn't help but say. The immortal realm connects all the heavens and all realms, and the locations of creatures from all walks of life in the immortal realm are not fixed. However, if the two companions of the ruthless emperor were teleported as soon as they entered the immortal realm, in the boundary sea, the luck is really bad. This is the only possibility. After going to Ronzo Temple, I will enter the boundary sea. The ruthless emperor's voice was calm, but it caused boundless waves here, which made King Xian and others change their expressions. Although this boundless sea has just emerged, its dangerous degree makes ancient King Xian, who is in the immortal king realm, giants can't help but feel scared. It's hard to imagine what else is hidden in the deepest part of this world sea. But it is foreseeable that even giants in the immortal king realm who want to cross this world sea will probably be filled with boundless monsters. Risk. And now, this female fairy king who has just been promoted to the fairy king realm is going to cross the sea to find the answer. No matter what the result is, this shocking courage is enough to be praised. King Xian hesitated for a moment, still didn't speak. He wanted to keep the ruthless emperor and ask her not to cross the boundary sea for the time being. After all, the current strength of the immortal realm is weak, and it is definitely a gratifying thing to finally add a giant of the immortal king realm. Moreover, there is still a threat that far exceeds the immortal king realm hanging above the immortal realm. It may fall at any time and destroy the entire immortal realm. At this time, all forces must undoubtedly unite. And if when the ruthless emperor enters the boundary sea, everything becomes even more uncertain. After all, the dangers of the boundary sea are obvious to everyone. However, the ruthless emperor is looking for his companions. If the search is successful, the immortal realm will have more with the help of the two statues. It is difficult for even King Xian to measure the difference between gains and losses. Facing such an opponent, even gathering the power of the entire immortal realm is useless. The ruthless emperor seemed to see what King Xian was thinking, shook his head slightly and said, "Now there is only one way. All the immortal kings in the world will enter the realm sea and use this as a training. If they fail, they will die." Just now she understood the true meaning of Delugo, and she knew the difference between Delugo and acquired beings best. And that supreme existence is even above Delugo. Such existence, no matter how many immortal kings are gathered, there are still what's the use? Therefore, in the view of the ruthless emperor, the only way at the moment is to survive in death. The existences above the immortal king realm all enter the sea of realm, looking for opportunities, sharpening themselves, and seeking breakthroughs between life and death. Opportunity. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 317. All the immortal kings in the world have entered the Sea of Realm, looking for a chance of survival. The ruthless emperor's voice was cold and without any hesitation, causing King Xian and others to take a deep breath. In fact, they had planned to gather all the immortal kings in the immortal realm together to communicate with each other and prove each other's ways. They also knew that the chance of success of this approach was low, or even very slim. The beings in the immortal king realm confirm each other, no matter how much they gain, it is just an exchange between the immortal king realm. There is also the quasi-immortal emperor above it, and above it, there is the Delugo existence that is above all the acquired beings. There are more than one natural chasm between them, which cannot be crossed by mutual confirmation and communication. Now the boundary sea has emerged, and it is endlessly mysterious. There may be great opportunities hidden at the end, or there may be boundless dangers hidden at the end. All the immortal kings in the world have entered the realm sea, and the road ahead is very unclear. It is difficult to tell what is waiting for them ahead. Perhaps, someone can find endless opportunities here and use this to break through to a higher realm. But the greater possibility is that you will get nothing, or even die because of it. After all, the ancient corpses floating on the boundless sea have revealed part of the ending to them. The creatures who set foot on this road will not have a good end. And if all the immortal kings of the immortal realm are destroyed, they will no longer have the slightest resistance against the dark realm. However, even so, what the ruthless emperor said may be the only way to go. After all, compared with the upcoming threat, the threat from the dark realm may not be anything at all. The so-called heavenly chasm, in front of such beings, would probably be like paper. If he comes, not to mention the immortal realm, even the dark realm, everything in the heavens will be stained by his blood and transformed into rebirth. Of resources. Not crazy, not live. Hung crossing the boundary sea, looking for opportunities, and looking for traces of the former Huangtian emperor, may be the only way to survive before everyone. Perhaps, the dark territory side can also contact us. The ancient king's heart suddenly moved, and he had this thought. There is indeed a blood feud for generations between the immortal realm and the dark realm. But in the face of this threat that can destroy both realms, this generational hatred may really be put aside for the time being. Aside. After all, those beings in the immortal king realm of the dark realm only want to occupy the immortal realm. Now that the terrifying existence that towers over Dalugo has come, the entire heavens and worlds will turn into nothingness, then the dark realm will no longer exist, and the plans of those immortal kings will naturally come to nothing. Therefore, facing the huge threat common to these two worlds, maybe the two worlds will really put aside their hatred for the time being and join forces. Possible. After hearing the ruthless emperor's suggestion, King Xian and others remained silent. Although they felt that what she said did make sense, they couldn't choose such a major decision for a while. Moreover, they cannot make decisions for the existences of other fairy realms and fairy king realms. Regarding this matter, I am afraid that only by gathering together all the beings above the immortal king realm in the immortal domain can we make the final decision. After everything happened, the ruthless emperor went to the ancient temple of the human race in the fairy land with King Xian and others. Looking at the crowd's retreating figures, Qin Mu, who was standing aside, couldn't help but touch his chin and said thoughtfully. It seems that the arrangement of the 10,000 Realm Sea will be put on the agenda as soon as possible. Before, due to insufficient shock points, Qin Mu only arranged part of the Sea of 10,000 Realms. But even so, in his opinion, this part of the Sea of 10,000 Realms is enough to withstand these immortal kings' exploration for a while. But now, the ruthless emperor has decided to go into the depths of the Sea of 10,000 Realms to look for clues about the past. As a result, this part of the Sea of 10,000 Realms is not enough. Therefore, Qin Mu must seize the time to collect all of the Sea of 10,000 Realms. The secret realm has been laid out. But for him now, it is no longer difficult to lay out the myriad realm sea. Although he was promoted to the Great Lugo Immortal Emperor and spent tens of billions of shock points, now he wants to lay out the entire 10,000 realm sea secret realm. It seems that slightly lacking. But don't forget that at this moment, he is in existence in the Dalugo realm. As a Dalugo existence, he already has some system authority. Void creation, or even fabricating history, for Dalugo, it's not difficult. He can base himself on the earliest days and change the memory of the people and the course of historical development. Naturally, he can also create this boundless sea of 10,000 realms out of thin air, and everything after that sea of 10,000 realms. And these are just all he needs is a little bit of insignificant strength. System, when will I know the truth about you? Qin Mu said thoughtfully. The nature of the system he possesses is lofty, and now it can even allow him to be promoted again on the basis of Dalugo. Whether it is to achieve Hunyuan or to achieve a higher Tao ancestor, as long as the shock points are enough, he can achieve it. Possible. And looking at the endless sea of infinite multiverses, this is undoubtedly an unbelievable thing. After all, it is possible to shape all acquired creatures. If you want to shape Deluo, even if you are Hunyuan, it is difficult to do it. As for shaping Hunyuan, even Dao ancestor cannot fabricate Yuan existence out of thin air. Let alone the existence of Dao ancestor realm. And this system has the power to shape Dao ancestor. Its nature is so lofty that it is definitely beyond the imagination of ordinary creatures. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 318. Dazu, even if you look at the endless sea of infinite multiverses, he is the highest in the universe, an existence that is difficult to reach and unimaginable by all living beings. Even though he is as noble as Deluo, he is extremely small and fragile in front of the existence of Dao ancestor. In other words, the existence of Dao ancestor is the incarnation of the great Dao in this endless sea of multiverses. He can use and change all the rules and orders in the sea of endless multiverses. If the Deluo realm is the realization of the Tao, the Hunyuan realm is the enlightenment, and the Dazu realm is above the Tao, it is a state of detachment. For such a noble existence, even if we look at the endless ocean of multiverses and billions of endless kalpas pass by, it would be difficult to create just a few of them. But now, the system that Qin possesses can't help but be able to achieve Deluo, and even has the power to achieve the existence of Dao ancestor realm. This couldn't help but shock Qin. Not to mention the achievement of such a supreme existence, even the great beings in the heavens dare not even think about this realm. But the system has the power to shape the Tao ancestor. There is no doubt that the system owned by Qin has a lofty origin and is absolutely powerful to an unimaginable level. In this endless sea of infinite multiverses, no matter what kind of treasure it is, it may be difficult to compare to its uniqueness. It can be called the number one treasure in the endless ocean of multiverses. After thinking this for a moment, Qin shook his head and put this thought in his heart. No matter how great the origin of the system is, it is difficult to find out given his current level. I'm afraid that only when he truly reaches the Dao ancestor realm, or a more powerful realm, can he know the true origin of the system. The only thing he has to do now is to continue to accumulate shock points and complete the transformation from Deluo realm to Hunyuan realm first. To be promoted from Deluo to Hunyuan requires so many shocking points. There is a long way to go. Looking at the data displayed on the pale golden panel, Qin couldn't help but sigh. Host, Qin. Current realm, Deluo Celestial Immortal. The shock points required to be promoted to Deluo Xianxian, 30 billion. The shock points required to be promoted to Deluo Jingxian, 610 billion. Shock points required to advance to Hunyuan, 150 billion. The Deluo realm is divided into three levels: Deluo Celestial Immortal, Deluo Xianxian, and Deluo Jingxian. Now Qin is in the realm of Deluo Celestial Immortal. Deluo Celestial Immortal, beyond the number of days, immortal and free, truly transcended from a big universe. The essence is the same as the universe of heaven and earth, itself is equivalent to this big universe, and can change the time course of this universe at will, manipulate history, base on the beginning, and become the oldest person in this world. Deluo Xianxian has gone a step further. His own way has spread from this universe, and has initially involved the way of endless multiverses. With just a thought, he can travel across the multiverses and be free. Freedom. As for Deluo Jingxian, his own concepts, traces, and methods have spread throughout the endless infinite multiverse. In many universes and many worlds, his methods and concepts are manifested. Such existences have truly touched the true meaning of immortality. Even if he dies in the battle, as long as his traces remain in the endless sea of multiverses, he is immortal. He can be resurrected again, immortal. and a higher level of chaos. The essence of UN existence is more lofty. It is the person who controls a great road, overwhelming all the heavens, and the Taoist body spreads all over the endless universe. With just a thought, it can involve many universes and worlds, and it is extremely powerful. Now, Qin Mu is at the first level of Deluo. To break through to the Hunyuan state, he still needs a total of 240 billion shock points. 240 billion shock points. What is this concept? It is better than what Qin Mu had before. The sum of all the shock points added up is many times more. However, although the number of shock points required is very huge, Qin Mu is not discouraged. Because, when he became Deluo before, he established himself at the beginning of the birth of the world, codified his own identity, and achieved the status of human ancestor. Nowadays, in all the heavens and realms of this universe, wherever human beings exist, there are his temples. Transformation. Endless believers and countless human races worship him in the temple day and night, providing a huge amount of shock points. Now, with every breath that passes, Qin Mu's shock points will increase a lot. Therefore, 240 billion shock points, although this number is huge. But for him, it is not a difficult task to complete. As long as there is enough time, it can still be completed. I have a headache. All these shock points are going to be used up again. Now we start to arrange the Sea of 10,000 Realms. Qin Mu said to himself, and then his figure disappeared in the distance and appeared in the secret space. After the ruthless emperor returns from worshipping in the ancestral temple, he will go into the Sea of 10,000 Realms. Therefore, these 10,000 realms, the layout of the boundary sea cannot be delayed for a moment. Although this move will consume a lot of shock points, but compared with the shock points obtained later, these consumed are nothing. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 319. In the Immortal Realm, in the Ronzhou Temple. In the Immortal Domain, there are hundreds of thousands of ancestral temples built in total, distributed in various major domains. What King Xian and others went to was the first ancestral temple in the Immortal Domain, located in the very center of King Xian's domain. This temple is majestic and majestic. The whole body is made of sapphire. It is simple and vicissitudes of life. As time goes by, there is an eternal atmosphere flowing on it. The Ronzhou Temple was built to commemorate the Lord of Heaven who preached to the human race at the beginning of eternity. All living beings in the immortal realm, as long as they are human beings, can enter the temple to worship their ancestors. King Xian, the ruthless emperor, and others have already reached the realm of immortal kings. Although the immortal realm is large, it cannot stop them. Therefore, only a moment passed before everyone's figures appeared in the first temple in the immortal realm. The temple is ancient, and stepping into it is like entering another world. In the boundless world, only an ancient statue stood quietly. It was a figure standing with hands behind its hands, and its face could not be seen. However, it was just a carved back, but it gave people the illusion that it was like seeing the Tao. Magnificent, majestic, complete, sacred, all the beautiful words, all the supreme titles, will not be excessive in the slightest when placed on the owner of this back figure. And this is just a statue carved by a master craftsman of the human race, and it is impossible to reproduce 1/10,000th of the majesty of its true body. In front of this statue, there are millions of human beings entering the ancestral temple to worship their ancestors devoutly. If there are no ancestors, there will be no clan. After what I saw and heard today, I now know more about the power of human ancestor. In front of the statue in the ancestral temple, King Xian raised his head, looked at the back of the sky-reaching figure in front of him, and couldn't help but sigh sincerely. In the immortal realm, a being like him who has reached the level of the immortal king has long been. It is above tens of millions of people. Looking at the immortal realm, and even all the heavens and worlds, there is no existence in the world that they can look up to, Except for the existences in the immortal king realm with them, all living beings in the immortal king realm are in the dust. Kneel down and look up at them. However, the existence of human ancestor is the only exception. Even the most unruly immortal king will obediently lower his head in the Ronzo temple to worship this leader of the human race. Because they know that if there is no existence of human ancestors, there will be no existence of human race. And as human beings, they naturally have huge karma with human ancestors. This karma, even if they use their lives to repay it, is not enough. It's really hard to imagine what kind of power it would be if the human ancestors were really here. The ancient king couldn't help but shake his head. He was the longest among the immortal kings present, and he also knew the most historical secrets. According to legend, there used to be an immortal king in the past. He went to the temple of the ancestors to worship the ancestors, and thus gained enlightenment and achieved greatness in one day. The giant of the immortal king. According to the more ancient legends, in the past, the human ancestor came to the human race and gave the Yin and Yang 2 volumes of the Mother Sutra. Everyone who saw the human ancestor at that time became enlightened, their cultivation level improved by leaps and bounds, and they all aspired to the highest level in the future. Become the pillar of the human race. The back of this human ancestor does have the miraculous effect of making people realize the truth. And you must know that this is just a sculpture cast by the great craftsman of the human race in the wild days of the past. It is conceivable that if it is truly the human ancestor has arrived. Seeing him, I am afraid it will really be like seeing the Great Road. Even if you do nothing, you will still benefit a lot. Even if they can see the human ancestor really wrong, I'm afraid there will be huge gains. Even above this realm, maybe to the next level. Worship the ancestors. In the ancestral temple, the long bell rang, and millions of people knelt down to worship. The ruthless emperor, the ancient king Xian Wanglian, and others also bowed down. However, the ruthless emperor looked at the figure from behind. There was something complicated in her eyes. Lord of God, human race, brother. These thoughts appeared alternately in her mind. But in the end, there was only endless determination in her eyes. No matter what, we all have to find him. After worshipping in Ronzo temple, everyone left the temple. Crossing the boundary sea seems to be the only option now. But if this is the case, there will be no retreat in the immortal realm. That's good. You can wait in the immortal realm for a while, and I will gather all the beings above the immortal king realm in the immortal realm to discuss it. Even if you plan to enter the sea of boundaries, it is best to prove each other's ways before and improve your strength. In this way, even if you enter the mysterious sea of all boundaries, you can increase your chances of saving your life in it. The ancient king pondered for a moment and said to the ruthless emperor. He had already seen that the ruthless emperor was determined to enter the sea of 10,000 realms and could not be persuaded no matter what. Moreover, he also knew that now it seems that he wants to fight if the real enemy of all realms does not enter the realm sea and go to the world behind the realm sea to seek fortune. It is impossible to be an enemy of him. They are really too weak, so weak that even in the eyes of the other party, even one of them is afraid. The situation is worse than that of ants. If you want to make a comeback, I am afraid this is the only way to go. However, before that, the ancient king also wants to be more prudent. No matter what, he will gather many immortal kings in the immortal realm to work together. Studying and competing to prove each other's ways will always improve each other's strength. After that, everyone's ability to survive will also increase a bit when they enter the boundary sea. The probability of final success will naturally increase accordingly. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 320. That's fine. The ruthless emperor pondered for a moment, but finally nodded and agreed to the ancient king's proposal. There is no rush to cross the boundary sea. If all the immortal kings in the immortal domain can be gathered together and learn from each other, they can indeed help. The way of one's own body has played a big role in helping. Moreover, Emperor Warren has just entered the immortal king realm. Although he is a giant in the immortal king realm, he lacks the accumulation of time after all. If he can compare with other immortal kings to prove it, he can also it allowed him to better gain a foothold in his own realm. Seeing the ruthless emperor nod, the ancient king breathed a sigh of relief. He was really afraid that the ruthless emperor would go his own way and enter the realm sea directly. No matter what, a giant in the immortal king realm would be a threat to the immortal king. For the field, it is a rare heritage and strength that must not be easily lost. Let's go to the immortal king platform, ring the bell of troubled times, and bring together all the immortal king realm beings in the immortal realm. King Xian said. Immediately, several figures disappeared from the Ronzhou temple. After a blink of an eye, they arrived at the center of the immortal realm, on a majestic and endless ancient high platform. The entire high platform was made of green gold and black jade. The atmosphere is majestic and endless. The high top of the platform towers into the sky, giving it a sense of eternal vastness. More importantly, the entire platform is surrounded by an unspeakable pressure. Even in a true fairyland, even if a being comes forward, it is difficult to withstand this pressure and go backwards. In other words, on this platform, only the beings in the immortal king realm can climb up. In the immortal realm, the bell of troubled times has not sounded for nearly tens of millions of years. Lian Wang, Xian Wang, ancient King Henren Emperor and others climbed up the steps, looked at the vast clouds above their heads, and couldn't help but sigh. The bell of troubled times is the last resort in the immortal realm. Lian Wang explained to the ruthless emperor. My immortal realm has gone through endless years and has some foundation. As for the beings who have been promoted to the immortal king realm in the past generations, after fulfilling the task of taking charge of the immortal realm for a period of time, most of them will fly away to the uninhabited land to practice hard and realize the way of heaven and earth. When King Lotus said this, the ruthless emperor nodded gently. It is true that existences that can be promoted to the immortal king realm are basically devoted to the Tao, and they rarely pay attention to the mundane things in the world. Such existences, and rarely manifest in front of the world. However, it seems that the fairyland has certain rules. Every fairy king needs to fulfill his obligations and manage the fairyland for a period of time. But it is understandable if you think about it. After all, the fairy king is made up of those who were created in the immortal realm, were once one of these countless living beings. In the future, when they reach the top and become immortal kings, they naturally have to give back to the immortal realm and cannot just focus on their own practice. Becoming the master of a region and controlling the development of the immortal realm, cultivating more geniuses for the immortal realm is their way of giving back to the immortal realm. Only after fulfilling their obligations for millions or tens of millions of years, these immortal kings will unload their burdens, disappear, and enter the pain of seclusion. Cultivation state, understanding the way of heaven and earth. Although most of these immortal king-level beings are practicing hard in the immortal realm, because they deliberately hide themselves, almost no one can discover their existence. Still there are a small number of immortal king realm existences, and their true bodies have left the immortal realm and are traveling among the heavens and worlds. Endless years have passed, and the number of immortal kings born in the immortal realm is by no means limited. After these immortal kings leave, if there is a major event in the immortal realm, it is necessary to summon all the immortal kings to come. How to bring everyone together is a big problem. Question. So in order to solve this problem, thousands of years ago, the 6 immortal kings of the immortal realm joined forces to cast the spell of chaos. After the words of King Lian fell, everyone had already climbed to the top of the immortal king platform. What came into view was a vast and endless platform. In the platform, endless chaotic mist was lingering. A simple bell was looming in the chaotic mist. Ancient. The big bell is thousands of feet high and is completely black and yellow. On the surface of the bell, there are engraved the vast sceneries of all souls, all peoples, all things, and all the worlds. Vaguely, it seems that you can see invisible threads connected with this big bell. And the other end leads to all directions in the immortal realm, as well as all the heavens and realms extending beyond the immortal realm. This is Luan Guzhong. King Xian reached out and pointed at the majestic ancient bell in the center of the platform. In the past, 5 immortal kings made this bell together, and each intercepted a mark of heaven and earth and put it into this bell. Therefore, when this bell is played, the rhythmic ancient sound will spread throughout the immortal realm and throughout all the heavens and realms. Because the ancient bell is connected to the way of heaven and earth, the sound it plays is also the sound of the way. All beings in the immortal king realm can detect the sound of this ancient bell in the way of heaven and earth. This is almost an established rule in the immortal realm. This bell cannot be sounded unless the survival of the immortal realm is in danger. But after hearing the sound of this bell, all the immortal kings will return to face the catastrophe in the immortal realm together. The ancient king said in a deep voice. Now, it's time to ring this bell. The ancient king and Xian King Lianwang looked at each other, each stretched out a palm and pressed it on the ancient bell. The ancient bell rings, and the heroes return. The 3 of them shouted together, their palms shaking slightly, and the ancient bell also vibrating. Then, an inexplicable rhythm, accompanied by the sound of the ancient bell, began to center on this place, moving towards the entire immortal realm, and even beyond the immortal realm. Radiating away from the outer worlds. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 321. Dang dang dang. The long ancient sound spreads out from the immortal king's platform, with an inexplicable rhythm, stirring up the world, radiating towards the entire immortal realm, and even the heavens and worlds connected to the immortal realm. What sound? Sounds like a bell. Where did this sound come from? The sound of ancient bells is playing between heaven and earth. It is strange. It seems that I have seen relevant information in ancient books, but it has been so long ago that I have forgotten it. As the bell rang, all the creatures in the fairyland who heard the bell had expressions of astonishment and confusion on their faces. The age when the immortal king platform was built is really too long ago, far older than the age of the immortal realm creatures that exist now. Moreover, only the major immortal kings in the immortal realm, and at most the ancient families founded by the immortal kings, knew about the creation of the immortal king platform. For example, ordinary beings in the immortal realm will not know about this matter. In addition, it has been so long that no one knows about it, which is normal. However, although the sentient beings in the immortal realm are puzzled, in the immortal realm, there are still some beings were startled by the sound of the bell. Fairyland, an ancient and powerful fairy king family. The Mo family in the Southern Territory. This is an ancient family that has been passed down since ancient times. It is said that the ancestors' founder was a being in the immortal king realm, and there are countless masters in the family. There are several true immortal realm beings who sit here. Of course, what awes all the forces even more is the clan's legendary distant ancestor, King Mo. Although he is no longer in the Mo family for a long time, he wanders to nowhere and understands the way of the immortal king. But no one would doubt that the Mo family had the means to contact King Mo. If there really is a blind person who dares to target the Mo family, and if the ancestor of the Mo family is attracted to come, the consequences may not be something that anyone can bear. Therefore, in this vast immortal realm, all forces in the southern immortal realm Mo family are extremely taboo about it, and no one dares to provoke it. However, the Mo family seems to have no interest in worldly affairs. They have been living in seclusion in the small world of the immortal king realm opened by King Mo, rarely contacting the outside world, and are very low-key. Therefore, after millions of years, only the same ancient families will know the horror of the Mo family. However, just today, the Mo family was also alarmed. A small universe connected to the immortal realm with endless territory. Ancient stars of life are dotted among them, and there are boundless ancient buildings on them, and they are filled with endless fairy energy. You can vaguely see Mo family disciples walking among them. And in the center of these ancient life stars, on top of the most magnificent ancient life star, there is an ancient palace, towering out of the territory, tens of millions of feet high, and its glory has reached its peak. Dang dang dang. The faint sound of bells penetrated from the fairyland and reached the small world where the Mo family was located. And in this most magnificent ancient palace, figures sitting cross-legged suddenly opened their eyes ancient and vicissitudes of life. Is this bell played by the ancient bell? The ancient bells are ringing, which is an ominous sign. Has the immortal realm, which has been peaceful for thousands of years, now reached the point of life and death? It shouldn't be. I also have disciples from the Mo family who travel all over the world. I received news some time ago that the border areas are peaceful and there is no war. It should not be a disaster in the dark realm. There is nothing going on in the abyss of two realms. I have just traveled across the world and have communicated with my disciples of the Mo family in the abyss of two realms. That's strange. There is nothing happening in the abyss between the two realms. What danger can there be in the fairyland? Voices of discussion resounded in the hall. Everyone who spoke out had a high status in the Mo family and belonged to the elders. Stop fighting. At this moment, the old man sitting cross-legged at the head spoke. Although his voice was old, after his voice sounded, the entire hall instantly became silent. Everything is because of this old man, who is now the Mo family. Ancestor, the fourth great-great-grandson of the former King Mo. The ancient bell was built by all the immortal kings of the immortal realm and cannot be used unless it is the moment of survival of the immortal realm. Moreover, if you want to play the ancient bell, you need the combined efforts of the three immortal kings. Now the ancient bells are ringing, indicating that the three immortal kings have reached a consensus that the immortal realm has reached the point of life and death, and the highest combat power of the entire immortal realm must be gathered together to defend against powerful enemies. The three immortal kings have reached a consensus. Do we have any objections? The old man's voice fell, and there was a sudden silence in the hall. Indeed, if the three immortal kings reached a consensus and felt that the immortal realm was at the point of life and death, no one would question it. After all, they do not have the strength and vision of the immortal kings. Naturally, I won't know what changes have taken place in the immortal realm. Our ancestor returned to the family once a million years ago. When he left, he told us that where he was going this time, there would be no way of contacting him. He was afraid that we would not be able to contact him, so we left behind a way to contact him. The old man at the head said slowly. In a place where no way exists, the ringing of ancient bells may be difficult to reach. Now we are the only ones offering sacrifices with the power of our bloodline, calling on the ancient ancestors to return to the fairyland immediately.